Hello, everyone. Welcome to Therapist Thursdays. After a little hiatus, we are back, and I'm excited to introduce you to our guest today, DJ Burr. And I met DJ because he runs a fantastic community of therapists and is just really a great leader with tons of ethics and really working hard to keep the community supportive and inclusive. And I see you. Um, but then I discovered that DJ and I are also in a screenwriting community together. And I was like, oh my God, like now we really have to meet. And so we're here meeting today for the first time. And so, yeah, DJ, why don't you introduce yourself and what your practice looks like and all that good stuff?
Oh, sure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to come and chat. I'm DJ. I am a sex addiction therapist. I specialize in sex addiction recovery, codependency, trauma recovery. I'm EMDR trained. And I love supporting people anywhere in their recovery journey. So I see folks who are brand new, who are still kind of exploring what it might mean to even get sober, and folks who've been doing it for a while. I identify as a person in long-term recovery, and so I know exactly like that process. And so I always tell my clients, like, I wouldn't recommend you do anything that I haven't done. So, I try to show up in the same way that I encourage people to do as well. And I love it. I've been doing this for about 15 years. I am, a licensed to practice in multiple states. And so that gives me the opportunity to reach people from all time zones, which is fun.
I love that. And do you also have a group practice? Do you have associates or employees also?
No, I used to. I mean, when I started my business, I started like 15 years ago. And so maybe 13 years ago, I had a group practice. And so I did have associates and employees and such. But nope, it's just me.
Awesome. And DJ is wildly popular, but I'll let him tell you at the end if you want to be on his waiting list, how to do that.
Yeah, I'm so popular. I actually don't have a waiting list. I just stay booked and busy, and I honestly don't believe in having waiting lists. So making sure that the other therapists who are available get those clients, and those people aren't waiting to get help.
Love that. I love that. And I love to see it. Amazing. Well, tell me, DJ, how you got to where you are as a therapist.
Yeah, I always start with like, I was born to do this work. I grew up in a dysfunctional family system. I was taught to put other people's needs before my own. And that has detrimental effects, right? And so, like, getting into recovery, my own personal recovery, has allowed me to kind of right size those skills that I have to kind of, navigate my own experiences and help people navigate their own. And so, I showed up in community mental health and helped folks in that way for a while, and then started my private practice because I needed my own space. Like, honestly, I'm not great having a boss. I like being the boss. And what I found out was that I actually just like being the boss of me. So
That's so funny. I had this same conversation with myself this week. Yeah, I get it.
yeah, managing other people is a lot of work, but I'm glad I got the experience. But community mental health almost like took me out of this field. And so I needed to transition. And then you and I met as a result of my private pay work. So I'm a private pay practitioner, meaning I don't take insurance. And I know that's controversial and I don't care. But I had to opt out of the system because that was just as debilitating as the community mental health setting. So for the last almost 9 years, I haven't taken insurance. And it was scary to make that transition, but I did it. And then I continued to help other people. And then the private pay practitioners page on Facebook, I started while I was making that transition because I was like, I need support. I need to know that there's other people doing this work and I'm not going to be alone. And, that group has been going as long as I've been private pay, and we are over 14,000 people now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, I'm excited. I found my way to you as, one of the 14,000.
Yes, for sure. I'm so glad.
Yeah, you said so many amazing things. I'm like, I don't even know which one to really, like double tap on. The whole so I did do an episode. I actually kind of talked about this multiple times on this show, if you want to call it a show, about why some of us don't want to take insurance. And I love how you just said, like, opting out of the system. And, one conversation I've been having privately is about this world we're living in currently, and how there's been conversations about putting some kinds of people with some kinds of challenges on a registry.
Mm,
Anywhere I can protect my clients' data and not give it to a third party, I'm hyper protective of
sure.
the people. I think the system is a disaster, and I love, I think what you're doing and what you're doing with the group and what some of us are trying to do is like put pressure on the system, not on each other.
Yeah.
Because we need to be thriving, and we need to figure out, because I think you are probably also passionate about people having access to mental
Yeah.
health help.
Yeah.
But how do we do that in a way and still be able to have sustainable lives for ourselves and like keep our own wells full, because this work is so hard.
Yes, it is so hard. And I absolutely 1,000% support people gaining access. And so I may be private pay, but that doesn't mean that I don't allow, my clients opportunities to have reduced pay. Like I've always had reduced spots. I have also offered pro bono spots. Those are things that have been built into my practice. That's just how I function. And so I believe in supporting clients where they are, and I will work with folks, but the system, the insurance companies, they don't work with people, right? So as a practitioner who would go to the insurance company and say, hey, like I actually need to get paid, not 60, 90 days later, or because your system crashed, or because you filed bankruptcy. And that actually happened to me. A company filed bankruptcy and I still have not been paid. It's been 9 years. I have not been paid. I rather work with the client directly.
Yeah.
Absolutely work with them, and my clients know that. And I'm quite flexible, because I don't want to see people suffer, right? And if I'm not the right fit, or if I'm not the right price point, like I'm willing to help folks figure that out, because I think everyone should have access. That's one of the things I really support. Like everyone should be in therapy.
Hell yeah. I sometimes allow myself to dream what it would be like if people had done work on themselves or were currently working on themselves, and just what a different world we would be living in.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
and I also don't know that therapy is the only way. There's therapy is great, but there's healing modalities that existed before I came onto this planet, and
sure.
deep respect for that too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, well, we could talk about also community mental health all day and every day, but just a little pep talk, because I know there may be some people out there who are listening and in it. Like there is life after community mental health. I
Yes.
think so much about people we've lost from the field because they had a terrible experience, and I'm just like, please.
Yeah, I mean, I was one of them. I felt like I was walking my way out of it because I was so like kind of depressed and like burnout, and honestly, like completely like in I identify as a person in recovery, like in my addiction as a means of like trying to cope with just so many things, including like the dysfunctional system of working in community mental health, not getting paid, what I needed, the stress and anxiety of having 40, 50, 60 people on the caseload. And like I was one of these providers who they sent out into the field, right, and trying to support clients where they were. And sometimes that meant like having not even like a true session, but just trying to do like case management on the side of the road. Like my very first week in community mental health, I was at a SWAT standoff. Like, make it make sense.
Yeah.
Like, I, of course, I was burnout. It
Yeah,
didn't
like
take longer.
personal safety also just a thing, right?
Yeah, that was so crazy making. Like I was just literally out of my head and I was like, I cannot do this very long. I worked 3 jobs just so I could get my hours so I can get my full license so I can get out of there.
Yeah. Yes. I feel like you're echoing lots of our stories in that.
Yeah,
But hey, let's talk about writing. Shall we talk about writing?
sure.
Yeah. So tell me about your journey to becoming a writer.
Yeah, I started writing like as young as like 7 or 8. We had an assignment in I think third grade, second or third grade, and like they always have us writing in school, and like I just knew that was what I was supposed to be doing, right? Like creating these stories, these characters, and then I had this vision of like I was going to be a head writer on a soap opera. Boy, my life was already a soap opera, and my grandmothers watched soap operas. I was one of these kids, came home from school, sat right in front of the TV, finished the last couple minutes of like Guiding Light or As the World Turns, which was my favorite, As the World Turns. And I just kind of crafted these stories for those characters. And I was like, I want to do this, right? But I never had like good information about how to do it. And I also did not have people within my environment who said, you can do it. And so I also got messages about like writers don't make money, it's not sustainable, blah, blah, blah. And some of that's still true, right? So like I kind of didn't necessarily put it on the back burner, but it was like, okay, I got to go do this other thing while I do this, right? Like I got to go to school and get a degree in like helping people while also trying to write. So I did that. And so that's what I've continued to do. And along the way, I've attempted to, try to break through the Hollywood gatekeepers. And it's quite challenging, as someone who, as a person of color, I have very unique stories and experiences that I put into the page and put into the characters. And I take my writing and I go and apply to competitions and get placements in competitions and, nothing happens. Right. And somewhere along the way, I'm like, okay, so the system is broken. Right. And am I the one that's going to fix it? No. Do I have the capacity to fix it? No. Do I have still the interest in writing? Absolutely. So I'm going to keep writing, but trying to knock down doors, that's exhausting for me. Because I try to do it with the insurance, and I often tell people it's like dealing with the same kind of system, right? And so I have to find a way to make my own lane.
Uh-huh.
I think you get it, right?
So deeply. Yeah, it's yeah, and I coach writers sometimes. I love to coach writers. That's so fun
Nice.
because honestly, like I want the writers to be writing. Like I'm very passionate that writers should be writing. All creators should be creating. Everyone
Yeah.
should be creating, but especially the people who are like they have like the muse has come to them. Like that's really sacred and it should be honored. Um, but yeah, I mean, you and I were talking about before this about like I too like have been doing the writing and submitting to the contest, and sometimes things happen, and sometimes not. You could place really well and nothing happens, or like, and
You
I
could win and nothing happened.
win and nothing happens, and I tend to write things that are poking at the status quo because I tend to write in a world that I'm imagining for us. Like, can we have these conversations that get us to a different world? And I
Mm,
sometimes think that's not safe when it comes to a very risk averse Hollywood that we have right now.
yeah.
And also thinking about what does it look like instead of like knocking on doors and hoping one opens to create opportunities. So thinking about what it would look like to just get my film made and not worry about like who's gonna like, oh, be my lit manager and then introduce me. But what if I just found people who care about what I'm doing and want to make a movie?
Hmm. Yeah. If I had like a benefactor, that would be ecstatic. I would be just all over the moon, right? But where does that happen at? So like my characters, my stories, they live on my Google Drive. and in my head, and honestly, I want to create opportunities for myself in the therapy world where like I'm generating income, in a passive way to where I can spend more time writing. So creating stories and materials and resources for fellow therapists, that can support my endeavors to be more creative with my writing. I mean, I think I've been doing that for a while now, and it's been helpful, but like I said, like no one's bought the script,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I have people who buy books, so like
Mhm.
keep doing that, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Well, tell us about your books then, or what do
Yeah.
you want to tell us?
Well, sure, absolutely. I mean, originally I take my stories, that my lived experience, and I put them into various, mediums. And one of my most successful books was my memoir, where I talk about my own experience of growing up in that dysfunctional, broken family system and dealing with addiction and recovery. And I wrote that over 10 years ago. And I wrote that as a member of like being in many fellowships. I learned the importance of telling my story, and, knowing that it could help other people get the support that they needed and know that they're not alone. And that book, over 10 years later, is continuing to bring people into my practice. And so I'm currently working on a second edition of that, hopefully to be out this fall. And then on the more professional, like clinical side, like I generate ideas and resources for clients who are struggling with addiction and recovery, providing them with like some roadmaps of how to address their, addiction and recovery process. And then also supporting therapists who are private pay. I have a new book coming out called The Private Pay Practitioner's Playbook, where it's really about the steps and strategies and tools that I have used over the last 9 years to be have a sustainable practice that is all private pay. And within my communities, I can talk about that, I can post about that, and I just like take everything I know and put it in a book. And so that's what's coming up next.
Well, shoot, you're inspiring me.
Oh, good. I mean, that's the mission, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. My story is, I started as a therapist, and then being burned out in community mental health, I pivoted over to learning and development. And it's through learning and development that I reacquainted myself with my writer self. It's like I had to journey away and come back. And because I was like writing scripts for e-learnings and writing
Hmm.
comms about, like trying to get people into our courses and stuff, and making worksheets as part of courses. So that's interesting. Like I've been in the space of trying to like bridge the gap of all the things I do, and so you're giving me some really cool ideas right now.
That's great. I love that. Yeah. I mean,
Not
I
like,
just yeah, I know, right? I just want to help people. And, I'm not one that supports the idea of gatekeeping, but I do support the idea of getting paid for what I know. So
yes.
I don't slap like crazy price tags on things that I have. And I offer lots of things for free to the therapy community, but I also need to get paid for what I know, right? And so I also have a premium offering for therapists who are private pay, where they can come get even more insight and support and one-on-one contact with me. And so that's something I launched this year, the Private Pay Practitioners Premium, which lives on Patreon. And so like I have all these different, ways in which I can support my colleagues and my clients. And that's what's kind of giving me life right now.
I love that. I often I do some coaching around like self promotion, because coming into this new phase of like wanting to have a private practice, a coaching practice, a consulting practice, I've had to confront the parts of me that feel like helping is disparate from receiving money. Uh,
Mm.
and so I'm been helping people sort of integrate those two things, because it's exactly like what you say. Like, accountants get paid for their knowledge. Why shouldn't I? Like, why,
Right.
just because it's really tied to my mission and what I care about, and helping and making the world a better place, doesn't mean I can't also be paid. Um,
Yeah.
And it's that's been a thing I've had to sort of unlearn from messages that I've received. And I think a lot of us do. And especially when you sort of add layers of identity in there that are not the ones that are usually supported in success, or not at the top of the leadership at the highest levels, right?
Yeah. And I think even in our community, in the therapy community, I consider it pretty small, right? A lot of people know a lot of people, right? And everyone's kind of connected in some way or another. And sometimes it's within these own like Facebook groups and stuff. And so one of the things that I will put a full stop on is anyone in my groups judging someone else for their rate. That is none of your business, right? And I strongly encourage people, like, you identify what you need to be successful in your practice. What do you need to keep those lights on in the practice and at your house? And that is nobody else's business. And just know that that's not going to be appealing to every client. Not every client's going to be able to afford it. That is okay, right? But I do not allow kind of like that bullying mentality that I see in some other groups. And, the feedback that I get from the members of our group is that they feel safer in my group, right? And that's because there's myself and like four other moderators who help keep it safe. And that's a whole job, right? And like we really value that space and want to protect it.
Yes. I mean, that's kind of going back to what I was saying to earlier about it's like, can we, instead of attacking each other, can we attack the world in which therapy is not valued in the same way physical therapy or all kinds of medical treatments are valued? Like we go to grad school, we do our hours, we take the tests, sometimes, I mean, like, and I think and on the SWAT line and me like driving 3 people who'd murdered someone to the museum, like these are things that we've done, and we have those two, like they're part of our foundation. And why doesn't that have a value to it monetarily?
Yeah.
And why doesn't that have a value to that in other ways in our society? Like it's messed up.
It is messed up, but I really believe like, we can't, one person can't change the system. We all have to kind of come together. And then you also have to have limits around what you are doing to help change the system, because you can burn yourself out trying to do that too.
Yes, which is a theme of a lot of my screenplays.
Oh, is it? Okay.
That's always the like reluctant, burned out helper.
Oh no, like I don't want to be burned out. Like I burned out, I think once, for sure I knew I burned out, right? But like I have my own challenges in my own family system that requires a lot of my energy and I have to protect it. And so I take the time I need. Like I can't see 30 people a week. I mean, I could, I don't want to, right? I see less than 20. So that gives me space to be able to show up for my kid who has special needs, and for my husband and everybody else, right? And still allowing time for me to write and create.
Yes, 100%. And that means that you are more present for the less than 20 people that you see. They get the best of you. Like
Oh
that
yeah.
should be. I was telling a former person who was talking on the show, like on the day when I have private practice, I spoil the heck out of myself because I want to show up to every session so full and ready and open because it's going to be like I'm going to hear hard material, and I'm going to like have to be able to think on my feet and all of this stuff. I want each of my clients to get the best of me, and that that does associate itself with a price. And TJ, would you believe that when I first left grad school, so this is like, the turn of the century, I did a survey because I'm a creative arts therapist. And so,
Okay.
like I'm a drama therapist, which even of the creative arts therapists, I feel like is like almost marginalized within the bigger, when you think about like how music therapy is sort of a household name, people know what that is. Like, thank you, Oliver Sacks, and all of the great, PR that music therapists and art therapists
Basically.
done. But I did this survey asking people about their attitudes around money and asking for raises and fee increases. And I interviewed creative arts therapists and then other master's level clinicians. And this was like, almost two decades ago. And, I noticed that there was this like disconnect between like, I want to help and I can never raise my fee. And people hadn't raised their fee in 10 years. And I was like screaming back at the results, like friend, you gotta get paid for your great work that you're doing. And does that show up to your next client when you're like, I'm not making my ends meet? Like, how do they experience that? And how would they experience it if you did raise your fee and they were like, good for you. Like, thanks for showing me that that's a thing that maybe I can do in my life.
Right. Yes, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. I try to support clients in getting the monies that they need, right? Maybe that's a shift in career if that's something that they are pursuing, like helping them navigate that, right? Like we could all win.
Yes.
There's no reason that we can't. I just don't see a reason why we can't all have exactly what we need. Now, will we get everything that we want? No, maybe not, right? But for me, I kind of look at, wants in terms of like big need, big wants, and like those kind of preferences that we have that might be smaller, right? Like we should be able to get a lot of those preferences, right? But like the big wants, like will I ever go travel around the world for a whole year? Probably not, right? But should I get to go on vacation to like the state over? Absolutely. I should be allowed that opportunity, right?
Yes.
And so like, can we give ourselves all those opportunities? But we have so many systems in place, from like healthcare to like the political landscape. And like, that's one of the things that I feel like I don't have enough information about, but I feel like I have too much information about, right? To know better. And like, I can't fix that by myself, but what I can do, I'm showing up for it, right? And so like give me those opportunities and I will do my part. And
Yes.
that's all we have to do. I think we all have to do our part. That's it.
100%. And like help each other along the way, which you are
Yeah.
in big ways.
Yeah.
I know we're starting to come to the half hour, but we didn't really talk at all about therapists as writers in terms of like how we approach character. And I wonder if we want to spend a minute on that, like how you see that working for you and where the overlaps are.
How do I approach character? It's interesting. I mean, I don't put a whole lot of thought in it. I just sit down and I write and I kind of think about lived experience, right? As someone who has lived a whole lot of lives, and has had opportunities to kind of repair a lot of that and have seen other people in their process. Like I pull from all of those experiences and I really think about like the core, what's the wound, right? And then I like create characters from that. Like what is that core wound? And then build up a whole person from that part, because we all are kind of walking around with our wounds, but we can still function, right? But there are ways in which those wounds start to show up, how they come out, sometimes sideways, right? A lot of my characters are dealing with addiction and trauma, very much like myself, but can they be redeemed? Absolutely. Right. So that's a lot of the journey for my characters. And so I just pull from my own unique experiences and the unique experiences of the things that I have witnessed other people experience. And sometimes that means just even watching people on the street, like how are they navigating the world, right? And incorporating that into my stories. And I love people and sometimes get very frustrated by people. And that shows up on the page too.
Oh my God. I am not only a member of that club, I am the president.
Yes. I'm like, what are you doing? Right. But I also say, gosh, that person must really have had an experience. Right. And I think that's that therapist part, that empathetic part, like really just knows like that person has had some experiences that are shaping those words that are coming out of their mouth.
I mean, you're basically saying what I was hoping you were saying, which is like we make really good writers.
Yeah.
You want a really authentic character. get your therapist writers to write a script and be our benefactors, because we are doing some really deep stuff that translates really cool on screen. But
Absolutely. And if the studios are not going to buy our scripts, they could at least hire us as consultants.
yes, yes, please. I don't know about you, but every time I see a therapy session or like a community mental health, or I'm always just like, that's not right. That's not how
I
it
know.
works.
Or the EMDR sessions, like I'm
Oh,
like, I mean, I've been trained for a few years now. I'm just like, what? That's not what I do.
I mean, it's interesting that like big stars have like brought it into the lexicon. Now people are talking about EMDR, but also now it's showing up on screen in ways that are funky and
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm just like, who did you consult with? I'm really glad that you're talking about this, but who'd you consult with? I think I can't wait to see more like conversations in about process addictions, like, sex addiction, sex and love addiction, codependency, debting behaviors, like things of that nature. Like those are things that are showing up in my scripts because I'm not seeing it.
yeah.
Right. And so like I want to continue to write about those things, not only because I have experience with them, because so many other people have experiences with them. Right. And I believe that people need to be able to see themselves in what they're watching and what they're reading, to be able to connect with those stories, those lived experiences, and it encourages them to get the help that they need.
1,000%, a
Yeah.
1,000%. And like, I want to see your stuff on screen. Like, that's amazing. And I would probably learn from it. And I would probably, reach me, and maybe not the exact issue, but like the authenticity of like the human
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we've gone over, but I wanted you to get a chance to promote anything you want to promote. Tell people how they can connect with you or work with you or buy your books or whatever.
Sure. So if you're a therapist who's experiencing the desire to leave the insurance industry, or you already have done so and you need additional support, you can find my Facebook group at Private Pay Practitioners. And if you're a Black private pay practitioner, we have our own unique page too, Black Private Pay Practitioners. And then if you need a premium level support, you can find us on Patreon /private pay. And I have a new book coming out called the Private Pay Practitioner's Playbook that is now available for pre-order on Amazon. And if you're someone who would like to know about addiction and recovery, my memoir is available in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook on Amazon as well. It's called I Just Wanted Love, Recovery of a Codependent Sex and Love Addict.
I love all of this. Yay.
Thank you.
So much for taking the time to be with us today.
Yes, I really appreciate you. And thank you for inviting me to your space.
100%. Let's just heal the world one client or one reader at a time.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.